Tēnā tātou, kua huitahi mai nei I tēnei rangi, mō Kōrero Toi. Nei rā ngā tino tohunga o roto I o rātou o rau ake mahi. And kua whai koha mai kia tātou I rungi tēnei rangi ātāhua, o Matariki no re ngā mihi o te tau hou kia tātou.
Kia ora.
Tēnei rangi ātāhua rawatu. Kia ora kōrero, awesome to have you here and thank you for taking the time to come and sacrificing your holiday and your big sleep-in for Matariki. For some of us, we've been up since 4 o'clock in the morning seeing the sunrise and that was absolutely beautiful as well. But it's beautiful to have you both here today to share about your mahi. I've been really excited all week to hear your journey and to listen to your kōrero, because every time I listen to both you, Hiria and Margaret, I always learn something new, you know, and your kōreros are always very rich and very Māori, which is what I love. So just for everyone who's joining and yet to join, I'll just introduce our first kai kōrero. So Hiria Anderson is Ngāti Manuapoto, Ngāti Apakura and Rereahu. She's born in Otarahanga and is living in Otarahanga and was raised in the home of your grandparents, Hiria, Eva and Rua Anderson, who were also members of Ngā Puna Waihanga. So Hiria has an illustrious career based in a background in arts from her tupuna. So beautiful to have you here, e hoa. What else have we got here? So she's also obtained a Master's in Fine Arts with first class honours from Whitecliffe Fine Art and Design, graduating in 2016. Ooh, ducks. And is a full-time practicing artist represented by Tim Melville Gallery in Auckland and Page Gallery in Wellington. And Hiria is one of our names that I'm hearing coming out from all corners of the art world in Aotearoa. She's hot property at the moment and she's very, very busy. She's only recently come back from Wellington from supporting exhibitions there. She's just hot off the property, sent her artwork to Waikato Museum for Toia's rongoa as well. So I'm really looking forward to seeing those pieces, but I'll hand this kōrero over to you, Hiria, and welcome and kea koe te wai. What?
Kia ora. Thank you very much for having me. I hope my computer system holds up, the sound and zooming in and out and all of that kind of business. So I'm kind of new getting into this kind of, so I'll jump right in with a share screen and get to it. So I'll just bring it up. Share. Here we go, and I will start us up with this. Awesome. So, this is me when I was little with my mother Dallas, and this is our home where I am now. So my grandparents, my grandfather. Built this whare in 73, 74, when I was born, and it's called Te Oho Turoa, and at the back of this whare is the main house that we live in, that I'm in now, and I have a studio here. So I was here until about 14 years of age, and then I went off to Queen Vic, Māori Girls Boarding School in Auckland. So that's me and my mama. Where am I? So next one. Oh, that's right, next one. Slide. Yes, so this is me here. My with my auntie outside the front of our house. And my grandmother was a weaver in her later years. She was participated with Auntie Digger, Diggeris Te Kanawa. And so all of those nannies from that era would come in and weave with each other. And I was privy to that network. From that age onwards. And on the right there are my cousins and I with my great grandfather Moira. So that's my home life, and it was creative from day dot. And so there was no escaping it. Our traditional forms of art. So this is the one of the two pieces of paper that I found last night. I thought I'd put them together. So I'm really proud of my first prize aqua jar. I probably was around about 13 or so there, but I did a lot of drawing and for my mother to go and pick up after me, but I was dyslexic, and so I had a look at some of my old stuff that my grandparents had kept, and everything was back to front and all of that. So I didn't find out till I was much older that that was the issue, and it all made sense when I saw my writing all jumbled up and stuff like that. And I leaned towards the creative side. So I gained my master's. I came in after Marg and did my master's in fine art, and then because I had been through two major teachers in my life of early arts was James Ormsby and Eugene Cutter. In Kōrero Toi, I think in 1998, 97, 98. I went to school under him and Huge, and it was taught me a lot. So I'm going to go through some early works in the next few slides, some early works, and then I'm going to sort of pair them up with the work that I do now. So I think one of my early loves was life drawing, and so the drawing conventions and painting conventions and history of art sort of kicked in around then. So I think the one on the left, I'm drawing what I feel, what I think and feel, and then on the right is seeing those conventions kick in for me. So that was in my first and second year of art. Okay, we'll carry on this one. Yes, so in my school years, I'm sort of learning different, historical references. The most obvious is surrealism, although I didn't really follow it hard and fast. But I liked the nature of surrealism, the kind of freedom for me anyway. So mixed in with drawing and painting conventions. So I had my little sketchbook, and you can see some sketches there that I was doing and then following them up with painting. This was 2005 when the Crown came in and attempted to squash Te Wānanga Aotearoa. So I was right in the middle of it, and Margie was tauira there as well at the time, and it was quite devastating. And so I was, kind of working through those issues that really hurtful issues that I was seeing. So the fella in blue there, being the crown, and Rongo's wetere, Tumuaki, is being hung up to dry, and all these little, these little koru sticking out of the ground are our tauira, and it was like being mowed down. But that's my interpretation of the work. I also, on the flip side of things, was practicing shadow and what that does. From a technical sort of point of view, I was sort of playing with all those kinds of things and learning from that. Flip over. So on the last slide was the beast hanging up on the thing. Well, I carry on in my own work these days, and this is another kind of quick sketch. It's not a resolved painting, but a quick one. But I really enjoyed that sort of masterful process of cutting up meat. So this was for real in my backyard. I started to work on not what I was sort of feeling, but what was actually happening. Another early work before I hit Whitecliff. So I worked up a kōwhaiwhai kind of pattern on a board, layered with oil, and I covered a white base first, and then I started bringing oils in and smudging them, and then overlaying, and I'm enjoying all this kind of thing. And then, if you can see this red thread going through, I started practicing shadow and realism with the button. I'd sort of bring those sort of elements through always in my work. So that was the early work. So this one I'm starting to it's what I think is becoming less important to me, and what is playing a stronger role, more of a documentation kind of role in my life of what's happening around me. And then I have a conversation with people. Are you seeing the same as what I'm seeing? What do you think? And what is it about our culture or my culture that we relate to or not? So I'm having more of a conversation with people than really telling them what I think. So this is probably another example of that. I'm not sure if you can see the one in the corner there. So the one on the left there, Margie and I had a conversation about this the other day. So I haven't thought about this work on the left with the coat hanger for a long time. And so it just popped up last week with me when I was down in Wellington. I thought, and then all of a sudden Margie brings this up the other day, so I thought I'd chuck it in. And it's it's quite a for me, it's quite a punchy kind of tell all kind of work for me. I'm telling you something that might be difficult and then and heavy. And on the right hand side, these are paintings post Whitecliff, where I show you how it is in my life, but also I can, like, for the girl on the right, the legs up the wall, it has what do you call it, implications for Māori women, is, putting up your legs up the wall and out, and for me, with my nannies, growing up with my grandmother particularly, that was something that you don't do. So in that way, I'm showing you and asking you to question those values, or think about those values, or however way you want to present it, however way you want to see it. But on the left, I'm telling you what I think, and on the right, I'm showing you how it is with our aunties in the kitchen, preparing kai and doing all those things. So yeah. So anyone, if you want to throw up a question anywhere, just shout out. So this is post Whitecliffe now, my work. It was wonderful to go through Whitecliffe and look at yourself as an artist. All that critical thinking, it was just non-stop for me, and I dove right into it. So I look at, just like the last few works, I look at our culture and our heritage, and I find things that really, really interest me. This one was on the right, particularly, was a wānanga that I was at, and that pot was dyeing some harakeke. So I really enjoyed the dangerous nature of how these implements came together. I know the fella who it was quite hard case, but I know each of these things have cultural values anyway, or values of their own. But you put them all together like this, and it's quite an interesting structure. And then, as I was forming this presentation, I put the structure of this pot next to the whakairo, and thinking, wondering what what they have, in common and or not. And I really enjoyed it. But I enjoyed painting this on the right. It's quite a big piece, and it didn't take too long at all, where other paintings take a long time. Yeah. So I like to look at things that are unusual, things here that are sacred or not. On the right here is my cousin's rubber boobs, and he came over he wanted to be painted. So I pulled some stuff out, but these sort of came together on their own. And it was quite interesting how it worked out in my sitting room as he was pulling all his stuff out. These things came together in quite an interesting way, and tell a story about him. And on the other side, I done an exhibition called Taonga, and I documented a whole lot of trophies that hadn't been shown for years. So they went back to the 1940s and 50s, and but they each tell their own story as well of succeeding and reaching a pinnacle in your interest in calf raising or cycling or things like that. And I found those two together quite interesting, placing them together here in the PowerPoint. Here's my cousin, and I painted him. He went down to page. So if you saw the whare at the beginning, my first photo with my mother and I, so that's the backdrop there to him. And he chose his own dress, and throughout the whole time he was there, he was posing. So, you know, I obliged and took photos of him. But this one was the one where he didn't. He was just getting ready to pose, and that's the image that I love the most. And I caught him without, you know, I like taking images and painting in between, you know, spaces. There's spaces in between, those quiet places where you just exist, and those are most interesting to me. And in this photo, I was trying to figure out how I could take a photo without the reflection, because it was high, you know, the sun was high at that point, and it would be sort of, you know, have that sheen on it. So I turned it to the side, took a photo, and then when I went back, I noticed that Paula Rego and all these people on the door there, you know, where all these women and that were on the door, and I thought that was quite an interesting contrast to our, oh, shivers, my cousin there. Yeah, so, and me. Yeah, so that's that one. Some recent work that I just had down in Te Papa. Yeah, so the one on the left is Mr. Bush, and we were just getting ready to go to the opening of my show at Te Melville Gallery, Tonga, when the bloomin' the last, you know, 6 o'clock news came on, news special, and that we were going to lock down. So at the pinnacle of just being about to leave, he had his mask on, just about to walk out the door, and that hit. So we decided not to go to my opening, but I really like that moment that's on the edge there of something happening. So my auntie and uncle are just outside of the door. You know, things are happening outside of this frame. The lady who purchased this work, her husband was flying from on a flying ambulance to hospital, and so I found that all quite interesting, that things happen outside this framed moment. And this other one on the right shows that my mother's shoes in a room. So this is the room that she's designed herself, and it's much more full now. But it shows the absence of people and the absence of her, but all that she loves is in the room. So, carry on. Yeah, I paint about health, our own personal health, the health of our people. So I painted my partner. He was in hospital and at the doctor's with this apparatus on, and he had urgency in his eyes, and that quite hit me about how we have been throughout the years and together, and then we're at this precipice where we could not be, you know, and I felt that, so I had to paint that. And on the other side, on the right, I've done work with Margie, and so this is a collaborative work that she had going, so she passed it on to me, and it was at the time, I think we're at level 1, Marg? I think we're at level 1, yeah, so she did a COVID drop-off. Yeah, and you know, at level 1, just because we had work to do for the show. She didn't see me, I didn't see her, but she just she left them out the door and then she phoned me. But I worked on that with her. Yeah, I think we're coming to the end now. Yep, so I paint the funny parts about us. And for him on that side, you know, that's the measure of the type of man and the humour that he has to me, and I wanted to show that, and he's open with it. He's all for it. He's in lots of my work, and on the right side is we had just finished tangihanga, and so we were cleaning up after that, and that's the acknowledgement of that. So I go everywhere, and I'm usually pretty silent when I work, and I'm pretty alone when I work. Yeah, that's it. It's all my slides done and dusted. Yeah. I feel like I'm in a sort of like a wind tunnel kind of place also. Yeah. Cool.
That's wonderful, Hiria. What I really love about your work is that you focus in on these, as you said, on you notice things that people often wouldn't notice, you know, things that are around us all the time that are actually really precious. And the fact that you capture these moments in time and then it makes us reflect on that moment is so beautiful. And your work resonates across the country with Māori, because we all can see, you know, oh, our auntie does that, you know, oh, we have those sort of things at our marae. Oh, I remember growing up and seeing those chairs sitting there. And so it's beautiful that in your work you have such subtlety but such power as well, and enabling us to remember what is precious to us. And it's not necessarily all these flashy things, but it's those things that will be here now but may not be there in the future, or maybe it's gone now and you bring back those memories for us. Tēnā koe, Hiria. It's so beautiful to see your work, and I always see something different every time you present, and there's a lot of thought, consideration and depth in your mahi that I really appreciate, and I'm sure everyone can appreciate that you bring forward. And I'm so, it's so exciting to see your journey as well, and that your work is getting out there and how prolific you are. Tēnā koe hoa. If anyone has any questions, please put them in the question and answer, and we'll have some time at the end to go over some questions and put some really interesting questions to Hiria, because I'd really like to hear more about your mahi. E hoa, tēnā koe. But for now, we'll just flip over to the amazing Margaret Aull, mover and shaker, mahi toi maker, and mover of people. So Margaret Aull no Te Rarawa, tū whare toa and Whiti. Margie is based in Kawamutu. And okay, I'm just got her profile here so I don't get anything wrong. So she is in an advisory position, is a lead in strategy, arts development and project management, and has done so over the years. She's also exhibited in Aotearoa, USA, Australia, Fiji, Morocco, and no doubt other places that she's forgot to mention. And most recently curated Hoho Te Rongo in 2021 at the University of Waikato. And that's also going on to become a bigger exhibition coming up at the Waikato Museum, titled Toi is Rongoa, and that opens on the 9th of July, I think it is.
Yes, couple of weeks.
Yep, not long to go, and I hear the artworks are amazing. So there's a whole lot of different artists who have created specifically for this kaupapa and what toi is, what rongoa is in toi. So really excited to see that coming up. I'll just see if there's anything else here. Some people may remember Margie as the collection curator at Te Wānanga o Aotearoa, where she would rock into exhibition and she would have a checkbook and everyone would go, ooh, what's she going to buy? So that was a pretty exciting time, eh, Margie?
Yeah, it was awesome. It was awesome time.
And she's also the Tumu Hiria Toi for the New Zealand Māori Arts and Crafts Institute. Also sits as chair on Te Ātinga. So awesome to have you here, Margie, to lead out this part of the kōrero. And I'll just hand it over to you, and we'll see those wonderful projects that you work on. I'm really excited to hear about. Tēnā koe.
Kia ora, tēnā koe, te tuakana. O te rā, kia kaita katoa. I'll kick off, and I loved hearing Hiria's kōrero, and we're very much in opposites, but also very connected. Well, she likes to be alone. I look for people. I don't like to be alone for too long. And you'll see over the slides how we connect them. But for those that don't know, Hiria Anderson is my kaiako, is my arts teacher, my toy teacher. So I was with her for how long, Hiria? 100 years for you, 3 years for me, learning toy. Yeah, at Te Wānanga o Aotearoa. So very much got a lot of aroha and respect to you, heaps, for your help in Māori my path into the art. So I'll share my screen, and Regan said usually I give people 6 slides. So today I'm giving you that's the wrong one. Margaret Aull portions of 45 slides, if I can get my screen right. Hold on. Anei, te tai, anei. Are we on? Oh, was it on? My bad. Yeah. Kapai. All right. Okay, let's get into it. Okay, so yeah. I'll just flip through the choice. So this is, I thought I'd start. It's quite hard to condense everything in, but hopefully everything makes sense. So I'll just run you through the journey, some of the things that have influenced me, some of the ideas that have come out of different kaupapa. But I'll start here. This is this slide here is pretty much what I've grown up with. This is on the left here is Ngāti Manawa in Pangaru. My mum's from Pangaru, whānau Mōrunga e Rapira. And so this particular image is on the hill with Pangaru Maunga behind it. And what I've loved about going backwards and forwards to Hokianga as a child is that it's a bit of an intrepid journey to get to Pangaru. It's not a place you call them for ice cream. It's very much a place where you go in and connect in with your whānau and your whakapapa. But I put this image here on the right because this is pretty much the visual language that I grew up with of when you're from Pangaru and with my father from Fiji, Lautoka, Fiji. He was born in Suva and migrated in 1975. These are the icons and the colours and the textures of Catholicism that I see in the lounge room. I see wherever I go to visit my auntie. So I thought this would be a good place to make a start. This slide here is I call it the Room of Memories in Semo in Fiji. This is my nana's sister, my auntie Louisa. But you can see there how our nannies, well, some of our nannies, I should say, not all, memories and photos and icons and prayers. And sometimes what I love about this particular room for me is that Auntie Louisa, I don't know how she's done it, but she's kept every single photo of every child born in our family and managed to put it into a wonderful installation of sorts with with different phases and epochs of our generation. And so this particular room I love visiting and reflecting on the branch and the story and how big our whānau has become, reaching from that now live and reside in Germany across the UK and into Aotearoa. Yeah. I wanted to show you this because a lot of people go, oh, you know, where did you start thinking about making out creativity? And I just wanted to touch base on this because my early childhood was in Ponsonby, growing up in the middle of urban Māori resurgence and as well Renaissance and te reo and kohanga, and I was one of the kids in Waiataro in Ponsonby there. But mum made sure we were in the thick of the Te Māori exhibition and the celebrations, and so this particular slide I thought to bring up because these are the superheroes, the superheroes, our greats, and so my early memories of Toi and my engagement with that, I should say, is very much protesting with mum, either in Aotea scribbling and drawing things like tamanui tera and going to visit these wonderful iconic tupuna. And I wanted to include this soundtrack here because I remember mum bringing this home to our tape cassette, and this is all we played for a number of months, I should say. But yeah, I just wanted to touch base on there, growing up in the kids and as a kid in the 80s. So this is my mama, my beautiful mum, Katarina Taimaki, and so this I wanted to share this slide because she is very much an important part of how I've been able to move through and growing up with whatever I do in the arts, whether it's cultivating ideas, supporting ideas, or leading ideas. And so this whakairo here that she stands in front of is hers, her po whakairo that she created at level 6 in whakairo, and I did a painting in response. So at the top there's Taitokerai styles, and down below there I did a portrait of a child. Mum never had long flowing hair. This is where I don't get my hair, where I get my hair from as a child. But and she used to have these crop hair, tight hair, Māori. And so I just wanted to paint that. And her kaitiaki is the kōtare. So we have this thing wherever we travel between her and I, is that whenever we see one, it's a form of good luck. So wherever we went to Hokianga from Auckland or Te Awamutu, heading back home, and whenever we saw a kōtare, it meant that we would have to go and put a bet on a horse, TAB or something. So I just wanted to share that. This is another beautiful wahine. So I've been really helped by a lot of people who supported me, encouraged me. And this is Auntie Mari Panapa, who also was my teacher in the arts, and Hiria. Hiria and I've got a lot of stories with Auntie, but she's one of the founders of Te Wānamo Aotearoa. And this was a photo taken in yeah, not long after that she passed away. But I wanted to mihi to her, especially at this time of Matariki, when we reflect back on people that we've drawn a lot of strength from. She was loved by many and still is to this day. So this is where, after learning the arts in Apakura or in class, I was shoulder tapped to be part, as you mentioned, Regan, to be the collection curator for Te Wānamo Aotearoa. So I was tapped on the shoulder there by the Wetiri whānau to come on board and collate. He says, hey, I just finished my degree at Wintec, and they said, hey, we want you to do an inventory. I said, sure, I'll do an inventory. Fresh out of Wintec, and then I had to go and look up what inventory meant. And so I embarked in the next 9 years of really grounding myself in the arts, and in a way that was, and I must say, it was such a privileged space to be in, because Te Wānanga Aotearoa was founded on whakairo and rāranga, and there's a lot of stories there, but I think that's where I got a sense of responsibility to be able to carry on the legacy and find ways to communicate and support the arts flourishing in Te Wānanga Aotearoa. So as collection curator, I got to do amazing things, such as support our artists out there by purchasing work on behalf of Te Wānanga Aotearoa. And I thought it was a really important part of ensuring that that we were contributing, and I'm speaking with the wānanga hat on, contributing to the ecosystem of Toi, of the artists, supporting their life's choices, and also ensuring that the wānanga was a visible leader in this space to be able to perpetuate our culture through Toi, and that meant making sure we were purchasing works so that we could perpetuate our character of being Māori, perpetuate, well, not perpetuate as such, but promoting our pūrākau through our tauira and through the artists that we purchased from. So this is an image of Buckman, and his mahi, a lot of people don't realise, but Te Wānanga Aotearoa and his the actual philosophy, Te Kaupapa, was actually written by Buckman. And so you'll see a lot of his work feature throughout the sites and embedded in Te Wānanga Aotearoa chronology and chronological story. But this is all informs the visual nature in which I should say, work through the day, and I see things and it absorbs and resonates. So a lot of my mahi, and spent 9 years doing that, did a lot of kaupapa, like ensuring uara were visible on the walls, so site designs. This is in Tauranga, where I'd get the tauira and staff to contribute, and we'll put the uara up on the wall. So I really loved it. Then I got to a point where I was like, I need to do something for myself. So I started at Whitecliff, and I think there was a real turning point for myself in my career. Everything at that point of time was more outwardly as opposed to inwardly, to investigate and kind of unpack ideas. So this particular show was at Papakura. It was my first solo, Concealed Ancestors, and I started investigating rules of engagement through tapu and noa. So I was really interested in how paradigms and conventions, how as Māori we aren't able to let go of this. So in the way that we have to navigate the world, we take these tikanga, we take these ideas and ways of knowing and being with us. So I'll give you an example. So, you know, at Whitecliff, so come from Te Wānanga Aotearoa, there's no way you'll see anybody sitting on the tables near having lunch and things like that. Go to a Pākehā organisation or institution, doesn't exist. And so there was this kind of jarring when I was like, you need to get off that bloody table so I can have a kai. But I realised, you know, there's a bit more to unpack there when it comes to navigating spaces. So this is tōtara. I left the chips, these wheku, left the chips out, because one of the tikanga with whakairo is that that I've been taught by Mike Matchett was that you bury the chips and then kaoti, finished. But for me, I wanted to keep the chips present, have the wheku look back on itself from where, you know, from a complete set of wood to looking back at itself and going, there's this correspondence there between keeping it in the state of tapu by keeping the chips out, but also, considering the different cycles. This here is called Whakapapa Transfer Station. I started collage. Very, very much in love with Fiji Museum, and spent a lot of time there with the collections and imagery of my tupuna, our handsome, beautiful men in Fiji. Equally the same for our wahine as well. So started thinking about how to utilise taonga that is sitting dormant. When I say dormant, not so much dormant, I mean have no provenance in some senses too, and pūrākau have been broken. So I wanted to create something to make them my own, if that makes sense. This is a collaborative work. So a lot of what I've been involved with over the years is always with people involved in this particular work. Myself and Hiria randomly had a talk. I think we discussed this idea for about 5 minutes, Hiria? And then we were in the car. Yeah, so there's this competition coming up. It was called Waikato, beautiful at every bend. And then I was like, actually, you know, there's a bit of a deeper kōrero here that we need to talk about. And so Hiria and I started talking about the impacts of agriculture and Te Tai Ao being eroded through different pollutants. Also water quality, issues around water quality, living around Waipa, our river, and Mangapiko and peat lands and swamps. Yeah, in 5 minutes we jumped in the car and took off to where Ngārua Wāhia, where Waipa and Waikato connect, and went into the river, then took a swig, and then I think we rang up Aisha Roberts on the way through and said, hey, can you do a photo? So this was a pretty much a one-day piece. Developed it, the idea came around in one day, developed in one day, finished in one day pretty much. But this is the nature in which, Hiria and I's relationships have grown. This is a collage waharoa that I did, To Whom May I Penetrate. So it was a very confrontational work, because at that particular time I was also looking at the value of flesh and whakairo, and the role of wahine and tāne, and wahine not being on pari and lintels, and researching a lot about how the tikanga, or the protocols in which we operate in Te Ao Māori resonate in the way that and it goes back to rules of engagement. So this was for my particular masters, where I got Aisha to come to my studio, take photos of all my bits, and made my own waharoa up, and it was a bit of fun there. Yeah, there's more kōrero there, but anyway. This is part and parcel of the rules of engagement. I made these Hawaii signs because I needed to find a way to articulate, especially a lot in non-Māori spaces, institutional spaces, that at that time, I mean, 6 years ago, I think there's more understanding now, but or 8 years ago, I remember a comment when I was talking about Hawaii Nui from a non-Māori, and says, oh, that's just a mythological place, it's just made up, isn't it? So where do you marries go? And so that sort of just resonated in my head, and I had to find a code, and to bring it into a physical space, and that was this series here. And so it's anchored, so I got these done by Road New Zealand, and it's anchored by obsidians, which is what I harvested and grabbed from, borrowed, I should say, because I still have them, from my lands in Whare Toi. And the obsidian really talks about hine nui te pō. So I wanted them to be anchored, I wanted the signs to be anchored into a space from a whenua, from a land that's not soil that's not easily identifiable, but speaks of hine nui te pō. In order for us to get to Hawaii, there's hine nui te pō there to be able to greet us. This particular painting here, Ātinga Road, which is owned by Nigel Burrell. This particular work, I wanted to talk about my nanny, my matriarchs, basically. And this is at the end of Ātinga Road, and Pangaru is our homestead. So this is a waka to Pāpaku form. I was really looking at Mary, and like I said, and I showed earlier, those bits of information that I've seen growing up, you know, with Mary and the bowed head and the, yeah, and so here, this particular work looks over Pangaru ki Pāpatahan, Pare Kawakawa. This particular image is Deep-sea Bob, Robin Lovelace there, and I wanted to put this up because whilst I've been making, I've also been privileged to be able to go to awesome spaces, and this is the Tes of Dokuibel, and this gathering here in Seattle, and managed to spend some time with Deep-sea Bob. But I think what I wanted to show you here is in terms of the arts and the generosity of our teachers, and opportunities, and to make the most of it. If you get the opportunity, make the most of it. But this is where I think the seed started planting for this particular gathering to come back to Waikato for me. And I know you had a bit of fun in there too, Regan, eh? But I loved that trip in Seattle. About this time, I was asked to go over to New Zealand Māori Arts and Crafts Institute and help set up Āhua Gallery. So I decided to, after doing my fine arts, decided to do a MBA, which is a Masters of Business Admin. I did the first year of it. I didn't feel like I wanted to spend another 20K to do a second year. But what I loved about it, it was just threw me out of my comfort zone. So I spent a lot of time there. It's called Clive. I went over there to set up the gallery, and I'll just quickly show the gallery. So Āhua is the name of the gallery there. So I plunged into a space where I was here helping another type of legacy. Same, all aspirational, all for our people to thrive and our culture to thrive. But Āhua Gallery, I set up the systems there and the spaces there so that New Zealand Māori Arts and Crafts Institute could promote their tauira, and the amazing work they do with the amazing kaiako. And these are just some of the, and everyone can just jump on there. But Āhua Gallery, if you are looking for taonga Māori and you're not quite sure where to go, this is the space here. What I loved about working at New Zealand Māori Arts and Crafts Institute was the fact that it was built on legacy, built on the whakaaro for our culture to be perpetuated. And so for me, it wasn't hard for me to go there and support the kaupapa there. All right, how much time have we got left, Regan? Shall I finish up?
Yeah, if you can give a bit of a rounding up, we're nearly at 1. Got 5 minutes
sure.
to go.
Okay. I'll just quickly show you the, this is the Casablanca Biennale, where I was one of 5 artists, Leilani Kake, Kora Kisa Mahina Tuai, Julia McGowan Gray, and Maila Urari. And we got to exhibit over in Morocco, of all places, and oh god, that was an experience, especially when you're trying to set up an exhibition in a French-speaking country, yeah, it was interesting. But this is a photo of my installation. This is a domo, which is our masthead of our drua, our waka in Fiji, and so I created this installation here in memory of my nana, both grandparents, so both matriarchs on the left and right. It's called Tai Aroha. So the idea was that I used power, because when I spoke to Mum, I said to Mum, "Oh, I'm not too sure what to do." And she says, "Well, daughter, what you need to do is what they need to see is that for what they see in front of you is 100 eyes behind you." And I thought, oh, that's what I need to do, is focus on the eyes. So I got a power and created 100 eyes to be able to make this particular installation. Funny thing is, they had never seen power before, and so this particular installation, after we left, I had to get a security guard in because it was a precious metal. So it was kind of interesting to see something that's quite normal for us to get to be treated like a superstar over there. Yeah, and those are just a close up of them. But I wanted to show this installation here. So this is what Hiria and I worked on, which is under the radar, and I decided to do some installation works. And at that time, there was a massive push. It was, what was it? Wash your hands for 30 seconds and all that kind of messaging. And so I came up with this idea where we would pull at a, excuse me, pull at a, what do you call these? Paper towel, thank you, paper towel, and have these messages read out. And this was fun. Me and Hiria were in her studio, going backwards and forwards with the machine and shoving it in and testing it, and so these are statements that we found popped up over our time. Cry in the car park at that time, one of his kōrero died, and it was really surreal. Me followed him as far as the gate of the urupa, and that's as far as we could go with him. And so we had to cry in our car, basically, and then we all had to go home, so couldn't even hug Mum or anything like that. So it's kind of surreal. Yeah. And it's my wheku, or my kōrero, I should say, that I did for that particular show. I wanted to talk about the impact of COVID and the different imagery and icons that were being developed, and the color coding and sequencing. So I became really interested in that. So I want to probably finish up on, there's lots of kaupapa. One of them is Hau Manu that I'm involved with, which I love. These guys teach me a lot every day as a project manager. And we'll be in Wellington next week to launch podcasts. So both as an artist, collection curator, and then project management, I get to do a lot of amazing mahi. But this is coming up, which Regan had mentioned, which is Toi Zonga. So this particular show has been 2 years of myself and Leilani Kaki and Elizabeth Gray. We've been collaborating and making work rangaho about Toi Zonga. This particular show is not a new thing. I think there's a really huge renewed energy around understanding the impact of te tai ao, but the fragility of human existence. But when I say renewed energy, I mean in the sense that we are more of a conscious understanding of our role and our own well-being and our control in that. And so this particular show is a statement. They say, some people say, oh, Toi is a form of rongoa, and this particular show is, no, it's not, it is. And this is how we hope, or I hope in this particular show, show you. And this unpacks again a lot of layers around the kupu toi, and that I think we've compartmentalized it in a sense that it means art, but when it's actually quite bigger, much bigger. The core of it is knowledge is source. And so this whakaaro is that if you know your own source and that knowledge, you'll have the tools for you to be able to find your own sense of balance and well-being. And that is what this show's about. So I'm looking forward to sharing that in the next 2 weeks, which both of yous are in, and very excited to be able to share that with our community. And I think that with this particular show, it's one iteration, and very much very grateful for Waikato Museum and Marie Mills for helping me get this whakaaro off the ground, and Creative New Zealand. Got to thank the sponsors who have invested as well. But I think a lot of, for me as an artist, and project manager and collection management, and Margaret Aull, it's quite hard to separate it. It is actually just this is the way that I am, and sometimes even my mihi says, "You're not normal, eh?" And I'm like, "Wow, why be boring?" But that's my enough about me. Anyway, I can mihi kia koe tō.
Kia ora, Margie, and I think everyone can agree, you know, seeing the scope of your work from your mahi toi right through to your project mahi, you're always on the go. And for me, that kōrero about that artwork about the bottle, you know, and it started with a 5-minute kōrero, and then it ended up happening right through to completion in one day. That really embodies you and how you work. You know, there's a lot of people who have amazing ideas and they're like, that's amazing, that would be so awesome, one day we'll do it. Not Margaret Aull. She'll go, that's amazing, that's awesome, how are we going to do it? Okay, let's do it now, and let's get it done to the finish. And Margaret, you're just an amazing example of tauira for all of us in your mahi toi. And in your artworks, you know, the depth of and layering of meaning in your mahi, you can see you draw on your different cultural connections, but also, you know, those confrontations that you come up as being a wahine artist, a wahine kaiwhakairo, you know, in all those different spaces. I love that you're able to bring those to the fore and create pieces for people to discuss and look at. Okay, what is this? You don't say this is what it is, but you're like, okay, I've made this, let's discuss it. You know, it's on the table, and those are important aspects for us all to be able to engage in and start thinking, and not just accept everything as the norm. Tēnā koe, Margie, that's amazing. So we don't have any questions at the moment, except I do have a couple. So I just want to, Hiria, I've got so many questions for you, but there was just one piece that you kind of went past that really, all of your pieces caught my eye, but you didn't really explain the piece with the moko kauai and the manu doll down the bottom. And I'm just kind of, it's still in the back of my mind. I just want to know a bit more about that. Could you talk about that?
Yes, I think I was going through a phase of thinking about what we're doing at that time with the moko. So I saw it getting one I saw it getting drawn on by Vivid, but it was a bit askew and it was a bit off, and you know, I was thinking about the use of it, and I was also thinking about that what does it take to, you know, when we lose it through the transition of colonization, and one of those ways would be to replace it with lipstick, you know, and then with marker, at that time it was heavy on my mind, and so I was trying to find ways of trying to express that. And again, it was just my thoughts at that time. And so, you know, we fast forward to the regeneration that's happening now, and it's just it negates, you know, what I was thinking, you know, back then, you know, to see this whole regeneration happening And yeah, and so that's what it was before. I think also a bit of naivety as well, mixed in as well, of what symbolism I'm using and how it's being used. Could I put it in a different way? You know, we could have the same thoughts, but we could put it in many different ways to express how we feel. The one thing that I was confronting at the time is what am I saying as an artist, and how am I saying it? The great thing about coming through White Cliff is that I was able to resolve those issues of how I'm the kind of representation I'm putting in my work. And one of the things that my tutor Noel said to me, he said, because I was always aggravated about something, you know, if something wasn't happening, you know, so, and how do you resolve that through, you know, and I thought I always had to be, you know, shouty, you know, and he said you can put forward the same whakaaro ideas, but you don't have to be shouty. And that's when I really learned, I got it at that moment, so I can present a body of work and ask what, you know, to consider it on their own without me having to give my thoughts over. Yeah, so that was pivotal. Yeah, and when you brought when you brought that up and going through this presentation, I thought it was important to reflect on.
It's so powerful that you are able to say, and that's what you said earlier, is you don't say this is how it is, but you put it forward for people to consider and start thinking about it. And I see that in both yours and Margie's work. Okay, it's about, okay, let's kōrero, or let's think or discuss.
And I think I think those are, like, when I think about when you're making work and you're in a space where you're creating ideas, albeit if it's canvas, sculpture, or facilitating ideas, you know, creating it for others, having sound bases and critical thinking around you to be able to shape it is so important. So for me, Hiria is that person. So when I'm painting and I'm pretty stuck, then I'll flick it to her. She'll be able to tell me, or she usually tells me she loves it. And I'm like, what do you mean? And but I do, you know, I think during White Cliff, it's quite was an important time for me, and during those 2 years or 4 years, Hiria and I have shared studios, and I don't know how she's put up with me. We've shared studios and lives and rooms, and during White Cliff, it was really great to be able to come in and out of studio spaces together. So I lived in my studio, which was James Ormsby's studio, so it had this beautiful residual kind of, you know, with his mahi and his thinking, and beautiful. And then I moved in for 2 years, and that's what I did. And then I finished up with second class honours, not first class like Hiria. And she moved in for 2 years, and that's how we've been able to operate, you know, and just reflecting on those spaces. So I remember all those works of Hiria's.
Yeah, so powerful. And you're so right, Hiria. Now there's this big renaissance, and there's still discussions happening, but it's interesting how it has transitioned from the pen. And the beautiful thing is the piece takes us back to that moment in time when we were at that stage, and now we can reflect back on how far we've come. And that's such a beautiful thing with work.
That's right. And when I paint these things that I think and feel, when you look back on it with the using of the vivid and things like that, that was the honest yearning for something. Our birthright was that's what we had in our hands to use. It was an honest yearning. Yeah.
Yeah, so true. Yeah, I remember that.
Beautiful. Margie, I just have a quick partai for you too. You know, in all of your project management stuff, you know, I've seen you really push some major projects and get them moving and really successful as well. Do you have some tips for people wanting to kind of get into making stuff happen, you know, especially artists and different kaupapa?
Well, I suppose, you know, being lucky, not lucky, but open. You know, you got to be open to learn, and when people start trusting your whakaaro and trusting your ideas and trusting you to hold those ideas too, is for me, kaupapa Māori's probably, when I say that, it means that if it benefits our people, that's where the benchmark is for me, and that's what I try and hit. And so it's not hard for me. For those that know me well, kaupapa really drives me. And so when I see the benefit, when it benefits our artists and our people, to see our artists and the visibility of Māori narratives in the community, if that's the destination, then there's a whole lot of community, you know, very grassroots level groundswell to cultivate. And so a lot of the work that I've been involved in hasn't been massive, you know, festivals and things like that. It's very, very much grassroots, and talking with our local artists like Daniel Ormsby, the brother there at the Red Shed, and sitting down with him and saying, what do you want to, what's your vision? And oh, you know, it'd be great to. And then that was 3 years ago, and then we created the Raumati Festival and roped in Hiria as well, and said, come on, can we bring in other artists like Witaiapa and Linda Munn, and just create an opportunity where they can see the magic. They create magic every day, but see what you can do together and find ways for artists to be able to take the gems and the takeaways out of that to feed themselves, to create more. And so I suppose in terms of tips, I think for those that are wanting to have an idea and they want to do it, you know, look for your artists. Go and talk to them. There's funding and things like, but having a clear idea, what is it that you want to do? You know, you want to hold a wānanga. What's the kaupapa? Who's going to come? Creating a safe space is really important to me. You know, removing the hierarchies. Just come in with you, yourself, and you. Noho tahi, and create an opportunity there. And for me, sharing knowledge is really important. So when I say that, it's not like in terms of project management, it's like, well, how can we put that head away? But it's there, but it's finding different areas of how to disseminate, allow people to shine, basically. A lot of the mahi, when it comes to project management within a kaupapa Māori setting, is service. You're not in it for the money. That's for sure. When you're in spaces like this, is very much an act of service. And so when I think about project managing Te Ātinga gathering, it's the vision to see our people come together and then another cycle. And so organising people to be, it's not about leading people, it's leading with people for me. Very uncomfortable about talking or leading in myself, but very much a back-end person to push our artists forward, and happy to do so, and then but yeah, and you just got to manaki people. So when I think of Haumanu, my role there is project manager. This is legacy work, you know, and it's already been done. All I have to do is just make sure there's coal in the fire, basically, or, you know, the fire's for them to keep going, you know. So I think when it comes to any projects, to get it over the line, working with people, not at people, not dragging people. Lead them with you, you know, and you're only strong as the team, basically. You're only as strong as the team. And yeah, I would say that for any, whether it's an idea or kaupapa that you want to lead or an idea you want to develop, you got to trust that intuition and, you know, do that rangahau. It'll help back you up.
Yeah, those are key words, Maggie, and I've actually seen over the years you really support some artists who have really benefited from your support and your mahi and have gone on to do other amazing things. So always excited and interested to see what you're both doing and the next project you're going to be involved in. But everyone who's listening, Toi is rongoa, Hiria is exhibiting, Margaret Aull is curating alongside Marie Mill.
Yeah, Marie Mills, and will be there'll be an installation work. So the basis of that, the idea in there with Leilani Kake, who does digital video, and Libby Gray, Elizabeth Gray, Tongapur also. There's a collaborative installation that will be part of the show as well.
Awesome, and a round of amazing artists there as well. And we won't name them all because we won't miss one. And we have to close off, but Mario sends a big kia ora.
Kia ora, Mario.
Really appreciated your
Kia ora, brother.
today. And kia ora, Mario. He was our superstar last week.
Yeah. Koina. And Lehua, beautiful.
Yep, with our other superstars, Lehua and Marwin.
And Marwin, yeah, so beautiful. I mean, this is the language, ne? The language of the arts, eh? We all come in, and that's the language that threads us in together, connect, hononga, and the sparks happen. Yeah, look forward to seeing you all in the next round.
That's it, and that's such an important thing with this series of Kōrero Toi, is our artists actually get to have their say in kōrero about their own practices, and it's an amazing journey. Hiria, did you have anything to say before we finish?
No, I'm lovely to have everybody here. Really enjoyed the session. Thank you for including me in this.
Awesome, Hiria. It's wonderful to be able to hear your kōrero today. And our kete. So my kete is full up now, so I'm going to go and have a matariki hakari and celebrate our Māori New Year with some mahi toi, some waiata, and connection with our environment here. So thank you for those gems of wisdom, and ka kitea kōrua a koe nei, o te rā kia koutou e mātaki mai nei, whakapiri mai anō a tira wiki, ki te Kōrero Toi, and we'll see you all soon. Hei konei.
Hei kona. Yeah!